Speaking of liking somebody, let's get this guy here, Zander, and that would be the host of the NFL Matchup Show and the author of How Football Explains America and Philly Special. That would be Sal Paolantonio. Sal, how you doing?
Pat, I'm doing great. And, Pat, you pay me the big bucks to get it right on This Week in Pro Football.
Right.
So on the Matchup Show, I picked the Eagles to win. On this show, I picked the Eagles to win. 2 weeks before I left, a week before I left, I visited my granddaughter here at her house. You just met her backstage on the show. Right. Audrey, she's 6 3/4, as she told you. We picked. There it is.
There it is, man.
37-23.
There you go, Sal. You think of the billions of dollars spent by guys in talking heads in suits trying to make predictions on the game, and there you go, 6 3/4, 37-23.
She and I got together, and I said, Audrey, it's going to be a blowout. The Eagles are going to win big. The Eagles are going to score at least 5 touchdowns, 35 points. I'm going to go 37. Give me a score. And she said, Papa, 23. And we came the closest of anybody on ESPN.com.
Yeah.
But, Pat, I knew it was going to be – I knew the Eagles would be in control.
Right.
I knew they would be in control of the game because they had – what did detectives say? Motive and opportunity.
Yeah.
Motive and opportunity, Pat.
Yep.
They had motive and opportunity. The motive was they felt like 2 years ago they got robbed.
Right.
That was number one. 2, they just thought all of this talk of three-peat, what are we doing?
Right.
You're trying to trademark three-peat with Pat Riley and you haven't played the game. It's sort of like Bill Belichick getting up there and showing the Patriots that the Eagles had the parade route once upon a time.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Sal Powder, the theory I expounded before you came on, was that in plain sight in front of us the whole time? The way the two teams showed up in New Orleans, the Eagles on a kind of on a downhill track, just playing downhill football, and the Chiefs kind of edged their way to New Orleans.
Yeah, I didn't miss it. A lot of people who are quote unquote professional prognosticators or film watchers did.
Yeah.
I didn't miss it. There's certain people like Stephen A. Smith. He didn't miss it. There are some people who didn't miss it. I came on your show a week ago on this show, and I said, this team, and I've been around a lot of Eagles teams for 30 plus years.
Right.
This was the best team, and they were in the most confident mindset I've ever seen. I said it on this show.
Right. All right, Sal, in terms of franchise milestones, where does this win? Where does the win rank, and where does this team rank?
This is the greatest Eagles team of all time. This is the greatest franchise victory of all time. This is the greatest postseason win in the history of Philadelphia sports.
There you go. There you go. What else would you really put up there in terms of a single game? I would say you're absolutely right. Some might say other 4-game series wins by other sports, the Sixers or the Flyers or whatever. But in terms of just a single performance, this one is I think the most memorable by a Philadelphia team for sure.
Well, you could say 83 Sixers and the Flyers of the 70s are right there.
Right.
But Phillies, no, they played the Royals. And then they beat the Tampa Bay Devil Rays.
Right.
The Eagles beat 4 guys going to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Mahomes, Reed, Spagnuolo, and probably Chris Jones.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Who had won 2 Super Bowls in a row, by the way.
Yeah. Let's talk about then this Philadelphia Eagle team, Sal, and whether, it's so hard. Like you just mentioned, all this talk, three-peat, the Chiefs a dynasty. Now you look at the way the Eagles are built and the number of guys they have, especially skill position guys, under contract. How long do you think this stone can roll downhill here, Sal?
Well, you start with Saquon, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, the 5 offensive linemen, and Jalen Hurts.
Right.
That's enough, I think, to make them the odds-on Super Bowl favorite from the NFC right there. Then you add Jalen Carter, Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell.
Yeah.
And you got the nucleus of a very good defense, if not great. So what are you going to do in free agency? Pass rushers are hard to find. For me, I go after Josh Sweat, and I try to get him under contract. Milton Williams, okay, he was made better by Jalen Carter. I get it. And you still have Jordan Davis. I get it. But I still try to sign Milton Williams. And then in my view, you have to sack. Zach Bond has to come back.
Zander,
somehow.
can you bring that list up, Zander, just for a minute? We could show that to Sal, and he can opine on just the top ones. But Sal, I just wanted to do this with you, just to review the Eagles free agents. And let's see. I mean, you mentioned a number of them already, but give me the order in which you would, if you're Howie Roseman, I want you to be constant. Yeah, where is your immediate concentration on this list of free agents here? But let's start with that. Here we go. Is Zach Bond? Tell me where you're thinking here. Is Bond your first guy you're going to pick up the phone and call?
It would be Josh Sweat, because pass rushers are so hard to find, good ones.
Right.
You know, if you're drafting a pass rusher of Sweat's value, you're doing it in the top half of the first round, and the Eagles don't have that pick.
Right.
So to me, it's got to be Josh Sweat, and then Zach Bond and Milton Williams. I think those are the three top ones that somehow Magic Howie, Trader Howie's got to figure out, salary cap, whatever, you know, figure out how you get those three back. And if you got to pick 2 out of 3, I think it's got to be Sweat and Bond, and then Milton Williams after that, because you already have Carter and Davis, and you have Moro Ojomo. I mean, you have some defensive tackles.
All right. Sal, you talked up Mekhi Becton all year long, and you you talked him up as a guy who was actually, as you mentioned it, unheralded on this offensive line. But now there he is. How important is it that Howie somehow sneaked a guy that big under the cap?
Well, here's the thing about Mekhi Becton. You know, the Eagles picked him up, made him a guard, and if you saw his emotional response after winning the Super Bowl, how he hugged Howie Roseman, how he hugged Jeffrey Lurie, how he just felt like finally in his life, professionally and personally, he belonged to something big and important. I think that's a huge selling point for him to come back. The Eagles believed in him when other teams did not. And he was a wayfarer. So they brought him in. He gets coached up by Jeff Stoutland, the best offensive line coach in the National Football League. He's made into a right guard. He had never played right guard in his life until he got to Philly. Yeah. And in my view, he played at a Pro Bowl level.
Yeah, he did. He certainly did.
So you could sell him on, listen, this is our family. We want you here.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's the other thing, you know, money.
Yes. Yeah, money does tend to get in the way. Sal, you also.
But, you could, Pat, go back to the Tyreek Hill situation. This is something that a lot of people miss. Tyreek Hill missed 3 Super Bowl rings by leaving Kansas City.
Yeah.
So true. You got to go. If I'm Howie, I go to these guys and I say, listen, we got Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley. We got A.J. Brown. We got Devontae Smith. We got this Philly fan base. Yeah. You stay here with us. Yeah. We can build something great, or you can chase the money. As my old man used to say, you can chase money or chase history, but if you chase history, you might get both.
Yeah. Yep. Fair enough. That's fair enough and pretty profound and true. All right. The name you're hearing bandied about Sao Paulo a lot now, Myles Garrett. He's requested a trade from the Browns. Do you think the Eagles get into that sweepstakes, and should they?
No, I think they won't. I think because of Josh Sweat's availability. So, you're going to have to pay Myles Garrett a lot of money, and you're going to have to give up a lot for him. So why not just pay Josh Sweat? Josh Sweat just terrorized the Super Bowl, took it over. He could have easily been the MVP. Yeah. He was Michael Strahan, for crying out loud.
Yep. I'd always be leery of trading for a guy like Myles Garrett. You're going to give up a lot, and why not? Why not take care of the homegrown guys who just got you there? I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. And where do you see now? The Eagles are picking dead last, 32. Now, this guy, Howie, has done one hell of a job. He's been picking in the mid to high 20s for the last 4 years, and he's mined 8 guys who started last week. What position do you think he'll be looking at 32?
Well, first of all, he will not pick at 32. I can guarantee you that. He will either move down and pick twice in the second round, where he did great last year. Great.
Yep.
or he will try to move up. He will target somebody at a position and say, I want that guy. So this guy gets Quinyon Mitchell out of Toledo. And if you remember, I came on your show and I'm like, Pat, I mean, not for nothing. Listen, I believe in Harry Roseman, but for Christ's sake, you're going from Toledo to the NFL. That's not easy to do. They saw something in him, A. B, they have a great coaching staff. He's got Darius Slay, Big Play Slay, coaching him up. And it turned into absolute gold.
It sure did. Well, it sure did.
They won't pick at 32. They'll either take a pick and move up or move down and get 2 and try to get a couple of players. They need a tackle. They need an offensive tackle bad. They definitely need an offensive tackle bad. And they need another corner.
Yeah. All right. All right. So let's talk just a couple nuggets about the game. You were your usual cogent self-texting during the game. You did Vic Fangio actually borrow from Todd Bowles going into that? Did he see something, you think, from that game and build whatever the Eagles were doing around it and defensively?
So I think I texted you that fact during the game. I said, this is Todd Bowles' defense.
Right.
So
right. You actually texted Todd Bowles. And right?
I texted Todd Bowles and I said, Vic Fangio copied your defense. And within 20 seconds, less than half a minute, I got a reply from him, and it was one word. Yup.
Yeah, that's funny. You even thought of that, but it sure looked like it. It just wasn't it reminiscent of how the Buccaneers terrorized Mahomes that day, and the Eagles, they doubled down on it.
Drop 7, rush 4.
Yeah.
That's what they did to Mahomes, and Mahomes was running laterally against the Bucs defense, just like he was against Philadelphia. It was a carbon copy except for 2 things. The Eagles had better players, without a doubt.
Yep.
And the Chiefs' offensive line was worse than it was in that game.
Yeah, that's certainly right. It was such a perfect day for the Eagles, Sal. Jake Elliott actually made 10 kicks. He was 10 for 10, 4 field goals, 2 of which he had to kick twice, and 4 extra points. It's just amazing how the entire day came together for Philadelphia, including their quarterback. Just talk to me now for a minute about Jalen Hurts answered the bell, because that was the only position where the Chiefs probably outranked Philadelphia going into the game. Has Hurts now reinserted himself in that conversation, say that top echelon conversation in the NFL at quarterback?
Oh, absolutely. What are we talking about here? We're talking about a guy who won a Super Bowl, and he was the MVP of the NFC Championship game, and he was the MVP of the Super Bowl. You know, people want to give it to Josh Sweat. I understand that. I would not have a problem. Zach Bond had an interception. He led the team in tackles in the Super Bowl. He had a pass defense. He had a tackle for a loss. Zach Bond, you can make a case that he should be MVP. But Jalen Hurts accounted for 3 touchdowns. He was the leading passer and the leading rusher in Super Bowl 57 and Super Bowl 59. He is the first quarterback, to be the leading passer and leading rusher in 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah, it was very impressive job by him. Sal, just a word, Kellen Moore. I just wanted to get your opinion on this. Do you think he made a mistake? Now, I know I know it's not a fair question, but what I'm saying is the Saints $100 million over the cap. I think they could be the worst team in the NFL next year, or they could be at least in the conversation. This guy, I'm not saying he can mail it in being the Eagles offensive coordinator, but all that talent, as you mentioned, is going to stay in Philadelphia. Do you think Moore maybe should have thought long and hard about it?
Pat, I don't. I think timing is everything in life. You know, there's an old saying, and it's still true. It's a cliche. It's a cliche because it's true. Strike while the iron is hot.
Okay. All right.
You know, it's not like there's 3,200 of these jobs.
No, you're right I understand
there's
that.
32 of these jobs.
Right.
You know, no one, if the Saints fail, no one is going to blame Kellen Moore.
Right.
If the Saints succeed, everyone is going to give Kellen Moore credit.
It's fair. It's a fair statement. Fair. But I think back to Steve Spagnuolo. You were talking about that a couple of weeks ago. Sometimes life is very unfair. But, hey, look, we'll see how this guy does. Do you think the impact, I only have you for another minute or so. The impact on Hurts of Moore leaving. You see anything discernible there?
I do. I think he really found a comfort zone with Kellen Moore. Here's what I love about Kellen Moore, and I do say love. I think he's distinct in this area. He's willing to adapt. He is a very good listener.
Okay.
And I think in this day and age where collaboration is so important in communicating with people you work with or people who work for you, it's dictatorial style does not work anymore.
Yeah.
You got to collaborate, right?
All right. Yeah.
So when you're coordinating, you must collaborate. And I think he's a very good collaborator and a very good listener. He was put in an impossible situation, right?
Yeah.
So people don't know how much Nick Sirianni was walking the plank after 2023. To what extent he was. Yeah. So they strip him of all offensive play calling duties, right?
Yeah.
And they give it to Kellen Moore. And Kellen Moore is out on an island with a quarterback who oversaw a collapse. And he's got to bring him back.
Yeah.
And he's got a new toy that's unprecedented in Saquon Barkley.
Right.
And, the offensive line after week 4 goes into Sirianni's office and says, we got to run the ball.
Right.
Maybe, I don't know this. I'm speculating, informed speculation, Pat. Maybe it was Kellen Moore who said to Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata, hey, go into the coach and tell him we need to run the ball.
All right. Right.
Maybe.
Very well. Good. Very well. Sure.
And if it wasn't that situation, that he was willing to listen to the O-line and the coach change midstream and give the ball to Saquon Barkley, turn it over the offense to the running game, and then it was literally off to the races.
It sure was.
So Pat, I think his ability to listen and adapt in this day and age is very, very important. And he's a smart guy, and he turned out to be a great play caller.
Yeah. All right, but listen, Sal Pal, we on this show are great listeners too. We've listened to you all season. I appreciated every minute of it. You did a hell of a job this year, from Sao Paulo to all the way to the Super Bowl. So I can't thank you enough for joining me, and we'll sign you up. Hopefully you and I will have a quick negotiation for next year, because you're always a UFA. I hope that we can close that up, and appreciate it, and look forward to talking to you. Look forward to maybe
look at that score, Pat.
Yeah, maybe if not, score. If I can't sign you, Sal, maybe I could talk to Audrey, and we can
Audrey, yes. By that time she'll be 7 and not 6 3/4.
That's right. So maybe there's a child labor law thing.
So her pay is going to go way up at age 7, Pat. Listen, Pat, I would like to say, first of all, thank you to you. The show is great. I love being on it. I hear great things about it from everyone. The show is fantastic. Thank you to JAKIB Media. Thank you to Zander. Does a great job producing the show. It is my honor and pleasure to be on this show. Thank you for having me, Pat.
All right, Sal. I appreciate those words very much, pal. Stay well, and I'll see you on the golf course, I hope, somewhere, and take it easy, all right? All right, Sal Paolantonio joining me there for, unfortunately, the last time, but he did a great job all season long. Sal, just the most informed and eloquent, I think, of all the NFL correspondents. I hope you enjoyed that. When we get back, a quick break and then just a quick segment here. We'll take a look at the Eagles 2025 opponents. It's dawning. We'll do that, and Sean Green coming up at the bottom of the hour as we roll along here on the finale of This Week in Pro Football.